Long ago, in a land of great wonders, lived a Hebrew girl named Miriam. Egypt was filled with Hebrew people, but they were not welcome there. The Egyptians made life hard for them. There's Pharaoh. Pharaoh, the Egyptian king, was worried. There are too many Hebrews, he said to his people, and they are more mighty than we are. What if there is a war, he asked? The Hebrew people might fight us. So Pharaoh put slave drivers over the Hebrews and forced them to do back-breaking work. Pharaoh didn't know it, but the harder he made the Hebrews work, the stronger they grew, and God blessed his people with more and more children. When Pharaoh saw the slaves were having even more children, he devised a terrible plan. He commanded the people, "Every boy that is born must be thrown into the Nile River." Pharaoh didn't know it, but this would fit right into God's plan. And God had a big plan. Things looked bad, but God had not forgotten his people. Those poor mamas are scared. One day, Miriam heard a secret. Her mother was going to have a baby. Miriam was going to be a big sister. Planning for a baby is exciting. There are names to choose, clothes to make, a cradle to prepare, and daydreams to dream of holding a tiny newborn baby. Lullaby in Egypt land, pyramids in desert sand. Lullaby soft and true, God has not forgotten you. When it was time, Miriam's mother had a baby. It was a handsome boy. A boy! Now what would they do? Surely they couldn't throw this tiny baby into the river. Miriam's parents had faith in God. They wouldn't let fear stop them from doing what was right. They believed God wanted them. They believed God wanted this baby to live. For 3 months they hid the baby. But as he grew, it was harder and harder to hide him. When babies get older, they get bigger and noisier, and they stay awake longer. What do you do to keep a baby quiet? You walk him and rock him and feed him and burp him and change him and jiggle him and play with him and sing to him. Being a big sister or brother is a lot of work. One day, Miriam's mother knew she could not hide the baby in her house any longer. She must take him someplace safe. She took a sturdy basket and coated it inside and out with tar. The tar filled in the cracks. When it was dry, the basket was watertight. It would not leak. Miriam's mother gently placed the baby into the basket and covered him. Then she and Miriam took him to the river. They placed the basket in the water. Reeds and grasses kept it from floating away. Then the baby's mother did something very hard for a mother to do. She turned and walked away from her baby. With her heart breaking, Miriam's mother went home. She ached to hold her dear baby, but she had to leave him in order to save his life. She didn't know it, but she would have her son back soon. Miriam did not go home. She stayed to see what would happen. It must have taken a lot of courage to stay by herself, but her baby's brother's life depended on her. Miriam waited and watched. Then she heard something. Someone was coming. Miriam looked up. She saw a young woman dressed in beautiful clothes. Golden jewelry sparkled in the woman's dark hair. It was the princess, Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh had made the law about killing baby boys. What if the princess found the baby? Would she obey her father's law? Would she have the baby killed? The princess was bathing in the river. When she saw the little boat floating among the river grasses, she called to her maidens, "Bring the little boat to me." Her servant girls went to get the basket boat. They brought it to the princess. The princess opened the basket. The baby cried. Poor baby. Do you think she's going to keep the baby? "This is one of the Hebrew children," said the princess. Her heart went out to the tiny, frightened child. Miriam came closer. With her heart pounding, she asked the princess, "Would you like me to find a Hebrew nurse to take care of the baby for you?" "Go," said Pharaoh's daughter. Miriam went. She ran as fast as she could. She ran to find her mother. When they returned, the princess said to Miriam's mother, "Take this baby and nurse it for me. I will pay you." So Miriam and her mother went back home. They were glad to be taking the baby back too. Miriam's courage may have saved the baby's life. Miriam didn't know it, but one day the baby would grow up and save her life. When the baby was old enough, he went to live with the princess. He became her adopted son. "I will name him Moses," she said, "because I drew him out of the water." The princess didn't know it, but one day God would use Moses to draw his people out of Egypt. Pharaoh didn't know his evil plans would help God's people, but God knew. Pharaoh's daughter didn't know the name she chose for the baby foretold God's plan for him, but God knew. Miriam's parents didn't know that all the problems they faced would be for the good of their people, but God knew. Miriam didn't know she would be a big part of God's plan, but God knew. There's little baby Moses growing up with his adopted mother, the Pharaoh's daughter. Lullaby, do not fear. Wipe away that tear. Things look bad, but it's still true. God has not forgotten you. That was in a book called Nobody Knew But God.